Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And today with me is Yulia Mamonova, who's the head of content at Lemon.io. And we'll learn about Lemon.io later on in the podcast. But first, I want to ask you, Yulia, what do you see as the future of remote work?
Hi, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure. So I believe that the future of remote work is in the hands of digital nomads, because with more and more countries opening the opportunity for digital nomads to move there and do work remotely, they are driving the economy, they are driving changes, and they're reshaping the world of work and remote work as we know it. Because I think the first step to that happened when the pandemic hit, and we all had to shift to remote work, but it wasn't quite as satisfying, I would say, as it is now. Because we had to rethink and reevaluate everything we know about the remote work ever since then, and being able not just to be locked up at home and work, but being able to travel, see the world, experience all the things you ever wanted, meet new people, network, getting to shake hands with people in your industry that you always wanted to, I don't know, to stand next to while working without having to interrupt. I think that's the dream right here. And so for me, I think the digital nomads are really the future of work. And hopefully, I know that around 10 countries have official nomad visas right now. A little bit more. We did research about that not so long ago. But I hope that more countries are going to open up to that opportunity. And so we are going to see more change in that direction.
So when my clients, I've helped about 21 companies transition to hybrid work and remote work and figure it out. And many of them have decided to hire permanently remote workers because they find that permanently remote workers they expand their talent pool, so they can get more diverse talent, more effective talent that doesn't have to live 30 minutes away from their office, which is always nice. And of course, they can get the talent at lower costs because the talent can live in lower cost of living areas. But what's something that my clients have struggled with is figuring out how these remote workers interact with hybrid workers, because most of the clients that I have, they're not fully office centric, except some of the ones that do manufacturing, the ones that have to be on the shop floor. But the back office workers, mostly they come in once a week, twice a week, and they deal with fully remote workers. So what are the challenges for digital nomads in dealing with workers, their colleagues who are hybrid, who do come into the office sometimes? What are these struggles? Tell me about that.
Well, we recently also hired like a co-working space for our employees that are in Kyiv right now. Well, we did that because we have power outages, and so it was easier for our team members to be present and to be able to perform and work and feel connected from a co-working space. But I think this opportunity gave me a chance to see that we actually function differently. People that are 100% remote and people that meet and have this hybrid like work arrangement, I think. So I think the challenge is that when you work fully remote, you feel a little bit eliminated, like you're not fully there. And sometimes you feel left out of the decisions that are being made, not on purpose. It's just because this is how it works. It's like, like water cooler talks, or decisions are being made right there in the office, and relationships are being built right there in the office, even though they come like a few times a week. you can see that that influences them. And so I think this feeling of being left out, like from my perspective as a remote first worker, I think sometimes I feel that I'm left out. But I think I'm grateful that we have at Lemon.io, we have this culture, because we were remote first for a long time. And we have a culture of like building relationships online. We have one-on-one meetings, we have informal meetings. And so all of these things, they help to eliminate this feeling and help me feel included, even though I am thousands of kilometers away. So there is a struggle of being left out, but smart organization and planning and intentional organization of communication inside your team helps solve those struggles, and helps solve those issues that you feel.
And definitely, my clients, I mean, this concept is called proximity bias. I wrote an article for Harvard Business Review about it. My clients have been working definitely to address this proximity bias, and we've definitely found that it's important to replace the relationship building that would happen naturally in the office with virtual relationship building activities. Also, performance meetings once a week with your supervisors are really helpful, so that your supervisor doesn't have a sense that you're not there, and that's very valuable. And also doing digital co-working with your colleagues, so while they're working, so that you can work at the same time. That were all helpful things. Now, you mentioned Kiev, and I know Lemon.io, it has a lot of employees in Kiev. And so what's it like for employees to do their work in hybrid and remote settings in the context of a war? I still have some family in Kiev, so they've definitely been struggling with that. Can you tell me a little bit more about your coworkers? I know that you're in Israel, but a lot of your coworkers are in Kiev.
Well, my whole family is still in Ukraine, so I know firsthand what it's like. My father is fighting for Ukraine right now, so it's all very dear and close to heart.
I wish him the best.
Yeah, thank you. But speaking about my coworkers, I think the biggest struggle was the power outages. It is sort of difficult to figure out the rhythm to stay in touch with all these outages. It's just it's out of your control. There is nothing you can do about it. You just have to learn to cope with it. And it's amazing to see how our company has stepped up, and they got a Starlink for the employees, and they had they found this co-working space, because typically co-working spaces, they look for solutions to these issues that arise, like power outages and everything. So it's easier to rent out a place where the team can meet and work without interruptions. Well, with minimum interruptions, because there are still alarms going off, and it's still inevitable, but it helps solve at least part of the problem that they're facing. And also, I think what amazes me is that I often struggle with having a work-life balance. I feel really, I don't know, I feel very disappointed at times. So it's emotionally very challenging for us to go through this war. But my coworkers that are still in Ukraine, they show this unheard of level of resilience, and they keep on pushing and working, and they have more of this joy than I do, even though they are in difficult circumstances, and I am perfectly safe for the time being. I have no power outages. I can plan ahead my week, my schedule, and I don't have any of those issues. So I think their resilience is a phenomenon that helps them a lot to go through all of this and do well. So I think co-working helps, but what helps more is their resilience and the inner ability to go through these struggles without being, broken by all of this. circumstances that are out of your control. Yeah.
That's very admirable. So thank you for sharing about that. I want to go back to a point you made earlier about the work-life balance. And something that I know you've focused on and thought about is work-life boundaries and kind of conditions that companies should set as a culture. So tell me a little bit more about that. What are your thoughts about what are the conditions that companies should set as part of the culture for everyone to have good work-life balance, including people who are in the middle of a war?
I think I started working remotely before it became a thing. I moved to Israel almost 5 years ago. So it was before the pandemic. It was before the remote work was on anyone's agenda. So it was before the big discovery of remote work. So I think I moved here, and my arrangement with the previous company was that I'm going to accept their offer and work for them as long as they allow me to work remotely. And so my journey started there, and I had to learn the hard way how to set these boundaries. And I had to go through disappointments and falling out and having the same conversation over and over and over again about respect, like respecting my time, respecting my boundaries, respecting my work-life balance. And so I think by this time, it's been 5 years and I've learned a lot of lessons. And so I feel like it's important to share these things, because as the world moves digital, a lot of companies just don't really think of this digital etiquette as something really important, and it just it leads to burnout in their employees. It leads to lost reputation, and they are, instead of gaining trust and gaining loyalty from their employees, they're losing it. So I think it's underrated and it shouldn't be. And a few things that I think that people and companies should really think about, and managers should really talk about with their teams, are these annoying little habits that lead to frustration in every single worker, like no, without even them knowing about it. So for instance, like long voice messages are a no-go. Basically anything you can say in text, you should say in text. Because some people say and claim that voice messages, they help to increase productivity and save time. I believe that these savings are so insignificant that it's not worth doing. And they bring more inconvenience than they bring convenience. So for instance, if you're sending me your opinion or an idea, or I don't know, an instruction on what, like how I can do something, I would have to, instead of just saving this message and going over it whenever I have time, just point by point, I have to listen to it over and over and over again, take notes, and then implement what this person has said. I find that really unproductive and sort of disrespectful, because when you're recording a voice message, you believe that your time is valuable, but so is mine. And going over your voice message is a waste of time for me. No matter how much I want to hear this information, there are easier ways to do that and more efficient ways to do that. So that would be one. And then the other one is texting people outside of their work hours. Because we're all working from home, from the comfort of our home, from my couch, it's easy to slip and lose this like these boundaries between your work life and your life, personal life. And so I would be checking my emails, emails, because I have 3 of them, but I would be checking them all the time. And so like sending me an email outside of my work hours is also disrespectful, I would say, because it's I think like our generation has this impulse. Whenever you get an email, you just have to open it. It's like I can't let it stay there unread, so I have to open it. So you're pushing me to read your email, respond to your email, and work outside of my work hours. So I think what helped me be more efficient and more respectful to my coworkers is scheduling all of my emails and all of my messages.
Yeah,
And a lot of these and a lot of these messaging tools, they allow for it. They are made specifically for you to show respect to your teammates and like schedule it for, you can work at night or during whatever hours you think you find fit. But for me, it's outside of my work hours. And so please don't do that. Yeah, I think there are, sorry. I think there are a few more like tiny things like avoiding jargon. So like whenever you can say something, if you feel like you can cut this sentence out and nobody is going to miss it, cut it out. Just shorten everything that can be kept short, just to save the other person's time. So I hope this email finds you well. Let's circle back to it. Or a lot of these things that just they can't be left unsaid and nobody's gonna notice that. Just leave them unsaid, because it takes me time, even though it's like a very little time, but it's my time and it's precious to me. So avoid it altogether. So I think a lot of little things, they all lead to frustration as they build up. So it's important to set out boundaries and be very clear about them. Otherwise, it's just you're just one step away from working day and night, and it's not going to do any good neither to you nor to your company.
That's a lot of wisdom there. So thank you very much for sharing that. Now, tell me a little bit more about, I know that Lemon.io helps digital nomads find jobs. Tell me a little bit more about Lemon.io and how you teach the people who find jobs through Lemon.io these techniques, tips, and tools. So tell me a little bit about both of those things.
So Lemon.io is a marketplace for vetted developers. So we find these developers, senior developers or strong middle developers, and we help them find perfect clients for them. So we basically work in the middle between these fantastic clients from with amazing projects from mostly from the States that are looking for remote employees to cut costs, to find to fill some hard to fill positions that are like really difficult to fill in within the US because the market is really struggling right now. And we find developers that are willing to work outside of their country. We work with more than 30 countries. So they're open to work remotely with clients from overseas. And so we help connect the first and the latter. And what we do is that we help pre-vet the developers. So we check their English proficiency first, their soft skills, just to make sure that they're going to be a good culture fit for the client, because soft skills are often underrated, and that can ruin your project altogether. And then we check their tech skills, and on the client side, we help these developers find a reliable client. So we have to verify a few things about the client, their project, their expectations, and then we make a perfect match because we have all the information from both sides. We don't directly hire these developers because we are a marketplace. So we just onboard them to our community, and we then match them with the perfect client. And so they are within our community, but they're not our hired employees. But our company has about 70 employees right now, and we all live across 14 different countries. Some employees had to move due to the war in Ukraine. Some moved prior to it, but the fact is we live across 14 countries. So digital etiquette and hybrid work environment is just something that it's just how we function. So it's essential to us. I think what helped us all to stay in touch and to be productive and to work well as a team is the culture of one-on-ones, the weekly meetings with the whole company where we all share results, and so that we can all feel like a part of this, even though it's sort of big, it's 70 employees, but still a very small, well-oiled machine that is working because all of us function well together. And so we have weekly meetings with the whole team, with the whole company, and then we have team meetings, and then we have informal time and for the whole company, and then we also have informal time for every team within the company. And so I think all of these things, when put together, they create this experience of working together, if it makes sense, because we are all so spread apart. We are so far away from each other, and it feels like those thousands of kilometers between us, they are standing in the way of us working well together. But with this, at the same time, all of these activities, they bring us closer together, and we not only get to function as team members together, we also get to know each other as people, and we get to build meaningful relationships outside of work. And so it all contributes to us being a great team. And I think it's the first. I think it's the first company that I enjoy working for because of how rich and thought through the culture within it is. So yeah.
That's very helpful. Tell me a little bit more, so I'm clear on the team meetings, the company meetings, so the one-on-ones. What does the informal time look like?
Oh, we usually play games. Like Scribble. We found a few we found online software that allows us to like play Pictionary online, or we play Never Have I Ever, or we do some silly things just to get to know each other better, just to make this meaningful connections, memories together, even though they're online. It's, you feel these connections when they're built and when they're not built. So it's important for us to have some silly goofiness, just to bond. And so I think our HR department is doing an amazing job at organizing these things and bringing us all closer together.
Excellent. Well, the thing I mentioned earlier, just to clarify about the virtual co-working, might be something to think about. It's when your team, your 6 to 8 people team, like the small team that you have, all sign into a video conference call, and then you share it's about an hour long. You share about what you plan to work on, and then you work on your individual tasks. You don't collaborate together. And you keep your microphones off and your speakers on and your videos optional. But if you have a question, or if you have an idea, or you have a problem, you can turn on your microphone and share, and you can talk through with your team these questions, these problems, ideas. And it's especially helpful for junior team members to be integrated into the team, people who are recently hired, but it's also helpful for everyone, just for team bonding. So that might be an activity to think about.
It's definitely is helpful. I think I tried it when I was a student. We used to meet online, just like you did. You just described it. We would turn our cameras on, microphones off, and we would just work together. I worked in my thesis,
exactly.
and these other students would do it too. Yeah, it's an amazing experience.
Yeah, and it's the benefit of that kind of, you can work on it with somebody just for motivation, that sounds like, but here with a team, it's not simply motivation, it's also problem solving and answering questions and team bonding.
Yeah, it makes total sense. We should try it out. Thank you.
Sure. Is there anything else about remote work, hybrid work that we haven't yet discussed that you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, I think what motivated me to go full-time remote is my son. We decided that we wanted to homeschool my son, and so that was the number one reason for me. to only opt for positions that would offer and allow for remote work. And I think that helped me. The fact that that I have to both be a full-time homeschooling mom and a full-time head of content, full-time manager, it allowed me to reevaluate how I work remotely. It taught me how to be organized, how to use my time more efficiently than I ever thought I can. It helped me to learn how to prioritize things and how to build my schedule around these many things that I have to fit in a single work day and a single day. So I think the fact that I have to both homeschool and work changed the way I think about remote work altogether. And it's been an incredible thing. And I feel like not a lot of people talk about remote work as a tool to being able to spend more time with your family and to pursue goals you set for your family. It's usually seen as a lifestyle or a work arrangement that you go for or you choose when you want to travel more or be more independent. But it's also the case, it's also an opportunity when you are dependent, when you're not independent, when you have responsibilities. But this remote work arrangement, it gives you a chance to pursue both a career and family goals that you have set. So I think that's another underrated way or reason to go fully remote.
That makes a lot of sense. And I talk to my clients and encourage them to support parents, working parents, and also adults who have elder care to facilitate the remote work. Those are two areas I think are especially important. Excellent. Well, thank you for coming to the show. Really appreciate you sharing this information with our audience.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for the ideas. So I'm leaving with an idea of what I want to implement with my team now.
Excellent. I'm glad that it's helpful. And thank you to the audience for checking out another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Again, we help you make the wisest, most profitable decisions. Please leave a review wherever you checked out this show. It helps us improve the show, and it helps other people discover the show, which is great. And please make sure to subscribe to the show wherever you checked it out. All right, everyone, I'll see you in the next episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. And in the meantime, the wisest, most profitable decisions to you, my friends.